Last month, I made a shocking video that stunned the entire world into complete and utter silence when I told everybody that I would be switching over as a lifetime Windows user over to fully Apple operational for the first time. So now I have had a MacBook in hand for at least a few weeks now. I've been getting a hold of the concepts of, the pros and cons between Windows and MacBook. Now, this is not a long-term review. Again, after about a month of having this was just enough time where I could finally get an idea of the things that have bothered me, the things that I've liked about it, and whether you should switch over if you're considering doing the same thing. So I was previously using an HP Spectre X360, the 2020 model. It is a 15-inch 4K touchscreen. It has 16 gigabytes of RAM and 512 gigs of storage with, I believe, an 11th generation i7 processor. This MacBook that I've switched over to, on the other hand, is downgrading, you could say, to a 13-inch non-touch display, not 4K resolution, with the same 16 gigabytes of RAM, but with an M1 processor and 256 gigs of storage. So let's go ahead and hop right into it. We're going to start with the cons of switching thus far, the things that I maybe kind of regret about switching, and the things that I miss about having and using and operating a Windows laptop. The first and strongest thing is just going to be an overall statement of this system usage. Now, it's not necessarily bad on the MacBook, but it is worth noting if you spent a lifetime or even a significant amount of time on a Windows laptop, there's a lot of things you're just going to be used to. Switching from Control for my keyboard shortcuts over to Command for everything is a crazy brain rewiring after 20 years of using Control Z, Control C, Control X, Control V for copy, paste, undo. All those things, like, it's not this that they change or that the name of the buttons are different. The placement is entirely different. When we look at the laptop MacBook versus Windows, the placement is 4 keys difference and literally shifts the entire hand motion and the fingers you use to click on those motions. That's a hugely challenging thing for me to switch over because it's not like I ever thought about hitting Control S when I was saving a project in the middle of working on a video editing project. My hand was just sitting there and it was just a trigger reflex, just Control S every 3 minutes to save it. When you're editing videos for the last 5, 6, 7 years, it's just something that you learn to save every 10 seconds. You don't even think about it. It's a trigger reaction. There's other small system things that I have listed here that you just have to get used to. The things that you grow up just knowing where they are, like a snipping tool if you want to screenshot anything, or things like right clicking, how on MacBook you actually double press the keypad. There is no right click hypothetically on MacBook. It's just a double click, and that's a lot of rewiring because I'll often click the right side of the mouse keypad on my laptop and it'll just click regularly. I'm like, it freaks me out. I realize it because I need to double click in order to do the equivalent of a right click on Windows. The next thing I want to talk about that I'm not too happy about is the touch bar. It's not that I hate it like a lot of people do. It's just not very useful. And it replaced our function keys at the top. And so instead of being able to just automatically click things like volume and brightness, you have to click one extra button in order to do that. Now, I'm sure there's ways to set the touch bar to always have those things on display so you don't have to click brightness and then adjust it. But it's just a lot of work. I just like to have my function keys. So maybe if I was somebody who didn't have reflex typing, then I would be looking at my hands, looking at the keys, and I would see the touch bar there. But as somebody who I know typing by through memory, reflex, it's not useful at all. Another small thing is the placement of the headphone jack on the MacBook, and I think this is generally MacBooks versus Windows. Depends on the Windows laptop you get, but coming from the Windows laptop I had or have ever had, they always have the headphone jack function towards the front base of the laptop, whereas MacBooks have them the back base of the laptop. For me, I don't like that because all it literally does is gives me less wire room when I'm wearing headphones that are not Bluetooth. Now, as somebody who works on video editing, I do not rely on Bluetooth because there's an obnoxious amount of lag when I have them hooked up, and so I always have a wire. And when I have this displayed hooked up to my second monitor doing video editing, it's just another foot taken up of my wire. And it means that when I go to grab something a foot away, it'll yank at the laptop. I'm just not used to losing that amount of space. And after a month, I still keep accidentally yanking on it. And I'm afraid I'm going to ruin the headphone jack. It's just, I don't know why you wouldn't just put it at the front of the laptop. That's where people want it to be anyways. Nobody's going to be working from behind the laptop. You know what? That's going to bring me to probably my biggest complaint about the MacBook. The ports. The ports. And we're going to say the lack of ports. It's ridiculous. Okay, we all knew it was here. I did too. So I'm not going to complain as if I didn't know it was coming. I knew what I was getting into, and so I'm not upset at it. But the fact that I even have to have this conversation is ridiculous. 2 USB-C ports and a headphone jack is not enough to accommodate 99% of people. I would argue even students. I'm not just a student, I'm a video editor and an audio editor, and I work a lot of functions with a lot of necessary ports. I need those. Right? And so even if they could have been a little more generous, everything about their decisions with ports is bad decision making through and through, and I don't know why they did it. Thank heavens I do have a USB-C hub that has external things, but even with a very generous USB-C hub, I'm constantly running out of space just because they were so unkind and ungenerous with the ports. The placement, the decisions, everything about the ports is a huge pain in the butt. I knew it would be. I'm just here to confirm it is, but it's doable. It is functionable. It is doable. There's ways to make it work. Another one is a couple of weird gimmicks I've noticed with the MacBook. I'm currently, like I said, working off of an external drive with another 2 terabytes of storage, which means a lot of my projects are back and forth between the two, which means there are some times that I'm working on a project that is in my desktop, but I have items in the Premiere Pro project that are files or items from the drive. But what I'll do is I'll go onto the Finder window where you have the little search button where you can search items on your laptop or on any external drive. Now, what's weird is I oftentimes have to grab items from the external drive. So when I search the item, it'll be like a song, like my ending theme song. I'll search it and it just won't be there. And I know it's not because it doesn't look for things on the drive, it just looks for things on the Mac. I know that's not the reason, because half the time it will be there. Half the time I'll look at it, I make sure that my Samsung drive is showing on the Finder display window, and it just won't show up. I'll search, Paper Melon logo PNG that I have on my external drive. No results. Then I'll unplug it, plug it back in, no results. And then I'll go back, work on some stuff, go back 5 minutes later, type it up, and it's there. It's just so weird. Or sometimes it'll just never show, so I have to go digging into my files and find it. And to be honest, I can't always remember where this stuff is, so it can be a huge pain. The last thing we're going to talk about as far as cons that you need to be aware of if you're switching from Windows to MacBook is the resizing of Windows does not work the same. This should be a given if you just look at the titles of the companies. Windows, by nature, lives up to its name and is way easier for resizing, reformatting different pages and windows you have on your desktop. If you have Safari open, Premiere Pro open, then Word document open, and other things, it's just really, really not convenient on MacBook trying to put those side by side and reshape them. You have to do most things manually. You do have some menu options for presets that you can set it up, but it's so hard going to that and doing those extra clicks and reshaping everything when in Windows, you want to take up the whole screen, just slap it against the top. You want to do it, take up half the screen, slap it against the side. Windows really lives up to its name and being really convenient for Windows. Mac needs to get their stuff together because there are ways to help out with that. It's just not convenient, and it's a huge pain in the butt. Okay, so I think that's about it as far as the cons are concerned of switching over to Mac. But with that being said, that is about it for today, so I'll see you tomorrow. Later, guys.